What's going on, AP Gov peeps? We have unit number 1 in 10 minutes for you today. The first in a series of unit reviews in 10 minutes or less. Okay, let's jump on over to the constitutional influence, the Enlightenment. This is a huge one. The idea of natural rights, life, liberty, and property. These were coined by John Locke. T-Pain's common sense, don't forget about that. He said, listen, America, you should break away from King George III. And all these ideas helped lead to the Declaration of Independence, which justified independence and drew on Enlightenment ideas. You see life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness written in the Declaration of Independence. The Articles of Confederation, the first governing document, they were designed to be weak. They were purposely designed to be weak because there was this fear of a strong leader like King George III. Now, there were some economic issues. Each state could coin its own currency, could impose tariffs between other states, made trading very difficult. And Shays' Rebellion was a rebellion over property taxes in Massachusetts, which lasted quite a while, which will lead to the revision of the Articles at the Philadelphia Convention of 1787. Now, the Annapolis Convention of 1786, this was somewhat of a failure, but there was a promise for a convention in Philly the next year, which would be the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Separation of powers, definitely know these. This is dividing power among different branches of government, and this comes from Montesquieu, the dude from the Enlightenment time period. Congressional powers, definitely know different powers of each branch. Article 1 says that Congress can declare war, they can levy taxes, tariffs, and are in control of trade. The House specifically can impeach officials, and here is a famous Speaker of the House, my boy Henry Clay. The Senate, they are jurors in an impeachment trial, and they also approve appointments and treaties. Presidential powers of Article 2 states that the president is the commander-in-chief, appoints officials, and enforces laws. In the judicial powers of Article 3, they hold positions for life. Very important to know, so they wouldn't be swayed by public opinion, that they can make the right choice, not necessarily the popular choice. And don't forget about judicial review, which allows the Supreme Court to declare laws unconstitutional. This came about as a result of Marbury versus Madison in 1803. Checks and balances, similar to separation of powers, be able to identify different checks. The legislative branch, they can check the executive branch by impeaching, overriding vetoes, and approving nominations. So if they don't like a presidential veto, they can override it and the bill becomes a law. On the judicial branch, they're the ones that confirm or reject nominees, and they can impeach judges as well. Now, when it comes time to the executive branch, they can check the legislative branch by vetoing bills, and they can also propose bills or budgets that they think are better than what Congress could come up with. They can check the judicial branch by nominating judges and also pardoning individuals of crimes. Judicial branch, their checks on the legislative branch is judicial review, what we just talked about. They can use this for laws and treaties. And John Marshall famously said it is emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. And they can check the executive branch by declaring executive orders unconstitutional. We'll get to executive orders in a future unit. Check out my handy dandy, sweet, amazing checks and balances visual. Be sure to know this. We got Abe Lincoln representing the executive branch, my boy Henry Clay legislative, and another one of my boys from the judicial branch, Salmon P. Chase, the 6th Chief Justice, reigning from the great city of Cincinnati. Okay, Federalists, Anti-Federalists, Bill of Rights. Lots on this slide. Federalists, these were people that favored the ratification of the Constitution. So Anti-Federalist, you know it, they're the ones who are going to oppose the ratification of the Constitution. But let's jump back to the Federalist Papers. These were written by Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay. And there were 85 reasons why the Constitution is awesome. There were debates whether or not the Constitution would be ratified. So here's 85 reasons why the Constitution is great. And they were published in various newspapers, specifically in New York. And this is a great insight to the framers of the Constitution because, in particular, James Madison played a large role in creating the Constitution. So the Anti-Federalists, they were against it mostly because there was not protection of individual liberties. So the Bill of Rights, First 10 amendments, they were added to gain support of the anti-federalists. And this is a list of rights and liberties that Americans have, especially from the government. And again, this was added to gain support of the anti-federalists for ratification. Federalism, huge topic to know. This is the division of power between national and state governments. 10th Amendment is what really helps establish this. This says that all powers not given to the national government are reserved for the states. Now, a couple different types of federalism you should know. Dual federalism, this is clearly divided between national and state governments. And think of a layer cake. This is clearly the federal government, and this is clearly the state government on top. They are clearly defined between the two. Cooperative, this has become more popular in recent years, and this is where the national and federal government share powers. And this is known as a marble cake, where things are more intertwined. There's not a distinct separation. Things like highways and education have become important in cooperative federalism. Devolution, also known as New Federalism, this became popular under Ronald Reagan. This is transferring certain national powers back to states. And Reagan famously said in his inaugural address, "In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem." So he's calling for powers of the federal government to be transferred back to states. Federal grants, definitely know these bad boys. Categorical, this is the main source of grants to states, and they have clearly defined purposes. Project-based grants are based on applications where you have to actually apply for them. And formula grants is money given based on a formula, and Medicaid is an example. So it's clear-cut, you're getting this much based on this formula. And block grants, know them, they give more leeway for states. If you're a state, you're going to love block grants because it's money from the federal government that is up to your discretion more so than other grants. Okay, theories of government. We have the traditional theory, which says a majority rules, and there will be restraints on the majority. Republican government, this is where elected officials represent the citizens of a country. Pluralism is the belief that groups can influence public policy through organizations. We'll talk about interest groups later, but things like the NRA, now in the UAW, these are different interest groups that can influence public policy through the idea of pluralism. Elitism is the belief that the wealthy have too much influence in politics, that it doesn't really matter about these other organizations. It's the elite that have all the power. And hyperpluralism takes the idea that pluralism is actually a bad thing because there's too many groups, and therefore government is weakened. It's kind of like in a gridlock. There's too much going on. You can't appease everybody. We'll finish up with a quick recap. Definitely know the Enlightenment led to the Declaration of Independence, which the first governing document was Articles. Shays' Rebellion showed the need of revision for that, which led to the Constitution. Absolutely no powers of each branch and specific checks of each branch on others. You'll see multiple choice questions on that. Federalists versus anti-federalists. Why were they beefing with each other? Why was the Bill of Rights added? Types of federalism, be able to identify all three of dual, cooperative, and devolution. 10th Amendment plays an important role in that. Types of grants, know as well, categorical and block in particular, and theories of government. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to see you back here for unit number 2 in 10 minutes. Best of luck this year, and have a good day.